I love to make tiered tray DIYs. They are usually very small and are simple and easy to put together. I hope I inspire you to make something beautiful for the spring and Easter season. Thank you for stopping by Lavender and Lace. I'm Alicia. Welcome back to my viewers that come and see me each week. And hello if you are new here and just stopping by for the first time. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the projects today, and I hope you will consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. And also, this video is part of the 5 Under 5 collab, and I will tell you a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. So for now, let's get started with these projects. This project comes together in absolutely no time. I actually had some of these pre-printed from a project that I had done previously, and I found this digital file on Etsy, and I will leave that linked for you guys. So all I had to do was print out these vintage seed packets, and I also printed out the back pockets as well. And I just cut those out with my paper cutter, and I folded the tabs on those back pockets and glued the front pockets to those. These are very easy to do. This would be a fun one that you could do with your kids in the springtime, and I just love all of these colors and the details on these printables. And once I had my back pockets glued on, I did take some scrap brown packing paper that I always keep on hand. I just tore out some smaller pieces of that and folded it up and added those to each of my seed packets just to make them look a little bit fuller, and they will stand up a little bit better on my tiered tray. And that is it for this project. These can be done very quickly, and these just add some beautiful color to your spring decor. And as I mentioned previously, this video is part of the 5 Under 5 playlist, and this is hosted by Emily from Farm Charm Chic, and this month it is co-hosted by Amy from the Singing Crafty Crafter. Both of their channels will be linked in the description box, so be sure that you check those out. And the playlist will also be linked, and you will be able to find lots of crafty inspiration for your spring and Easter tiered tray decor that you might want to make. So what we had to do for this particular playlist, we had to make 5 DIYs that were $5 or less in cost to make them. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the projects that I have created for you. So let's get back to those. So the things I grabbed first for this next project, I picked up this margarita glass at Dollar Tree. I hadn't seen them before, so that was something new at my stores. A clay craft tool set, a piece of scrap cardboard, and I also had some air dry clay already on hand. So I traced the top of that glass out in my cardboard. I needed that just to fit on the top of that, and just cut that out with some scissors. And I just checked to make sure that that would fit nicely on the top of my glass. I didn't want that to fall down on the inside rim. And I had some of these plastic solo cups, and I thought that would work best for the next step for this project. So I did cut that down and got a smaller piece that I needed to work with. Wrapped that with some plastic wrap, and then I dusted the top of that with some cornstarch. This is going to be the mold for my air dry clay, and I wanted to be sure that I could get that removed easily. So to work with my clay, I just pulled off a small section and kneaded that, and flattened that out into kind of an oval shape, I guess you would say. And I started pressing that onto the outside of my plastic cup mold. And I did that same thing with another piece of the clay and kind of pressed those two pieces together so I could make sure that my clay would stay together nicely. And I just kind of pinched those seams to make sure those two pieces were together. And then I used another piece to go on the back side of this, just so this would be one complete piece. And I did find that using some water, just brushing that onto all of my clay pieces, helped those to stick together better. And you guys, I loved playing with Play-Doh when I was a kid, so this just brought back some of those childhood memories. And I used to do cakes as well, so I really enjoyed creating things and molding things with fondant. So I had a lot of fun with this project. And I added some extra water to all of those seams and just took one of those clay tools that I had picked up at the Dollar Tree and just smoothed all of that out. And when I did that, you weren't even able to see any of those seams. And I took some smaller pieces of that clay and just rolled out a snake, and I attached that with some water. Used some of those tools once again just to blend in all of those edges and just kind of made that look or add some more detail to the top of this. And I added 3 of those smaller pieces to the top of my main piece of clay. And I used another one of those scoring tools in that clay set and just added some more cracks and crevices to this. I'm trying to make an open cave is what I'm going for here. When I was looking at it like this, I was thinking, that kind of looks like a bonnet. So I hope it looks like a cave to you all when you see the finished product. I can't wait until you see this finished. I love it. It is one of my favorite things that I have made to date so far. And I took another piece of clay and I just shaped that and formed that into what I thought looked like a rock. And then I just took a toothpick and wrote out the words, "He is risen." I think you guys know now what I am trying to create here. And I did let these two pieces set up for over 24 hours and just carefully removed that big clay piece from my cup, and that removed perfectly. I did try to be as careful with this as I could while I was working with it. I didn't want to have any breakage or anything like that. And I just took a stencil brush and my elephant gray chalk paint from Waverly. I painted the inside as well as the outside of this main piece. And I did leave a little bit of that clay color kind of peeking through because I thought that looked like an actual rock. It just gives this some more detail and definition. There's really no rhyme or reason to the way that I did this. This was the first time that I have ever sculpted anything like this and painted it, but I am so happy with how this turns out. And then I just took some of my ink chalk paint, the black color from Waverly, and did a little bit of dry brushing. I tried to do some more definition and put that into the cracks and crevices a little bit more. This just makes all of that detail stand out a little bit better. And I took that same brush with that black on there and just kind of scrubbed some more of that black color on in some swirling motions, and I absolutely love the effect that that gave me on this piece. And I just repeated all of those steps for my rock as well. And to give me a little bit more highlight, and I thought this would kind of look like the dirt that you would find on rocks, I took some of my, I can't remember what this color was from Apple Barrel, but it was just a brown color. And I took a smaller stencil brush and just did those swirling motions again, kind of a dry brushing effect. And it looks absolutely gorgeous, I think, once this is finished. And I also took that brown color and painted my cardboard piece. It's almost the same color as the cardboard, but I thought this would look more realistic, more like the ground maybe. So I just did one coat of that and let it dry completely. And I added some of these rocks into the bottom of that glass. I like the way that this looked, and I also thought this would help with the weight. It wouldn't be as top heavy, and I thought it would be a little bit more stable while it was sitting on my tier tray. And to attach my cardboard piece to my glass, I used a combination of E6000 and some hot glue. I just went around the rim of my glass and placed my cardboard on top. And I used that same glue combination to attach my tomb to my cardboard piece. I know it's kind of hard for you guys to see everything that I'm doing at this angle. That was kind of intentional. I wanted to keep you a little bit in suspense, and you will just absolutely, I think, be amazed when you see this finished product. I just love it. I love it. And I did add a little bit of extra hot glue on the inside just to make sure everything was secure. And I found a few of those rocks that had broken in half, and I just glued them around on the edges. And I glued down the stone that had been rolled away with some hot glue. And to kind of help me hide some of my hot glue and just to soften this project a little bit, I had some reindeer moss in my stash that I added just here and there on the top of the tomb, around the edges, and I just attached that with some hot glue. And I did have a little bit of the seam left around the edge of the glass where I added that cardboard to it. You could just see kind of that corrugated cardboard, and I wanted to hide that. So to do that, I just took a small piece of jute and just glued that all around the edge of my empty tomb. And here it is, all finished, you guys. This is just absolutely gorgeous, and I will enjoy putting this out every year for Easter. It's just a beautiful reminder of why we celebrate Easter. I would love to know if you guys might recreate this, and if you do, leave a picture for me on my Facebook group page. I picked up these crafting eggs at Hobby Lobby, and right now the Easter stuff is 40% off, so you can get them a little cheaper than $3. And I also saw them at my Dollar General stores for $2, so that's just a couple of places that you can get these. I took 6 of these and I painted all of them with one coat of my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster. I know it's hard to see a lot of difference on camera. It just gave me a little bit more of an ivory color. And while my eggs were drying, I had 3 of these wooden spools that came in a pack from Hobby Lobby, and I just stained all of those using a baby wipe and some of my antique wax. And I took some of the territorial beige color from Apple Barrel and just did some speckles all over each of my eggs. And I thought this technique worked a little bit better than using my fingernail or anything like that. You could also use a toothbrush. That always works really well to give you some splatters and speckles. I just didn't have one on hand. And then I just took a Sharpie and wrote out some Bible verses on each of the eggs. And each of these selections are the Easter story from the different books of the Gospels in the New Testament. And I actually saw this idea on Pinterest, and I just kind of changed it up just a little bit for this project. And I did give each of the eggs just a little bit of greenery detail and just to add some color. And on the tops of my wooden spools, I added a little bit of Spanish moss. I just love how this softens a project that you are working on. And I just glued an egg to the top of my Spanish moss. And I also had 3 kind of springy colors of thread that I had on hand. These were actually some of my grannies that I have just had in my craft room that I used for decorating, and I thought it would be fun to use them for this project. And I just added that Spanish moss to the tops of those as well. And I added a simple shoelace bow to each of the wooden spools. And that is it for this project, you guys. These are so simple. This is another fun one that you could do with your kids, or maybe if you have a ladies' craft night or something like that before Easter, this would be a fun project to do there. But what do you guys think about this one? For this project, I started with these plastic chocolate Easter bunnies, and you can find those at Hobby Lobby, some of my plaster colored chalk paint, and this new color of Rub and Buff. At least it's new to me, and it is the Spanish copper color. So for this one, all I did was paint my bunnies, and I did have to do 3 coats of my chalk paint just to get the coverage that I wanted. You could spray paint these as well if you wanted to, or maybe do a base coat, and then you wouldn't have to do so many coats of your primary color. But I just painted each of my bunnies, and I did the bottoms as well. Just made sure I had complete coverage. I was kind of going for the ceramic look that you can find. And once my chalk paint was dry, I just took that Rub and Buff and an old dish rag. I have decided to keep one of these in my crafting stash just for projects that I use the Rub and Buff. And I just lightly went over the entire surface of my little bunnies, and I wanted that detail to kind of pop on these. And that is it, you guys. That is all I did for this project. And I got 4 of these bunnies for $3, I think it was. And I mentioned before that right now Easter stuff is 40% off, so you can grab these for a little bit less. But these are just a super cute addition to your tier tray decor. I had this little mini kind of birdhouse planter box that I had got from the Dollar Tree, and I had also found this floral stake at Michael's a couple of years ago, and I know the tag says that was $6, something like that. I did not pay that much for this, you guys. I think it was $1. Everything was on summer clearance when I got this. So I wanted to just remove that stake from that floral pick. I started by just kind of pressing down with my tin snips, and I eventually was able to break that off. And I should have done this part first. I just used my floral cutters and held on to that wire piece, and it literally just twisted out of that little wooden sign. I could have done that first and saved myself a little bit of time there. And I used my tin snips once again just to remove the tulips from the top of this. I could have probably used my box cutter or my miter shears maybe, but I was trying to be really careful and not break those slats on the bottom of that sign. I wish I could have gotten those tulip pieces off in one large piece. I could have used those for another project, but I wasn't able to. I did have to use my floral cutters again just to remove that extra pieces of wood on the top of my sign because those tin snips did not give me a clean cut. And I just used some 80 grit sandpaper just to smooth down those areas on the top of this little pallet sign where I had cut all of that off. And just rubbing it on top of that sandpaper worked a little bit better for me than trying to do it the opposite way. So that's pretty much what I did to get all of that removed. And I just used my heat gun to remove that sticker on the back. I wouldn't have had to do this, but this sign had those slats in there, so I was able to see that sticker from the front. And I wanted to change up the color of this just a little bit and make it look a little bit darker and kind of aged. So I just did a light coat of my antique wax from Waverly, and I didn't wipe that back with a paper towel or anything because it completely wiped it off. There was a very kind of smooth, shiny finish to this. So I just put that down with my paintbrush and left it alone and went across that 25-cent piece as well there just to age that a little bit. And I dried that with my small heat gun just to make sure that that would stay where I had put it and not wipe off. And I just used my antique wax to go along the roof line of my little house flower planter, whatever we want to call this piece. And I just love doing small projects like this for your tier trays. And you guys be sure that you stick around to the end because I have kind of an unconventional tier tray that I want to share with you. And for the color on my little box, I went with the moss colored chalk paint from Waverly, and I did just one coat of this all along the outside of the box and that back portion as well. And I also did the actual back side of this piece. And I did just a little bit of distressing, so I did some dry brushing with my antique wax. You guys could totally skip this step if you don't like to distress your DIYs. And I cut down some pieces of floral foam so they would fit inside my box, and I just added those in with some hot glue. And I grabbed some different florals and greenery that I had in my spring and summer stash, and I just cut those down into pretty small pieces. I didn't want these to be too big to go into this piece. I wanted to be able to kind of see that butterfly cut out. So I just trimmed all of those down. I had some different types of lavender. I think all of these came from the Dollar Tree last year. These are some of my favorites that I have found there. And I just started putting all of those into my floral foam. I didn't even glue any of these down actually. So I just did a dry fit and placed those all in my little planter box. And I'm glad I didn't glue these down because I actually pull these back out. I thought they were a little bit too big still. You couldn't really see any of the roof line or a whole lot of that butterfly cut out. So I just pulled all of those back out, and I actually just cut those down into smaller pieces. And then I just added them back to my box. And to attach my sign to the front, I just used some hot glue. And that is it for this project. This one was another one that just came together very quickly, and I love this kind of soft muted greens and these purples and whites from the lavender. These are some of my favorite colors to use to decorate with in the springtime. But what do you guys think about this one? So here's a look at all of my projects that I created today in the video, and this is my unconventional tier tray. I've shared this in some of my older videos, and some of my newer subscribers may not have seen this, but this is a cabinet that my dad made, and it just sits in my dining room, and I like to change all of the decor for each season. And I think all of my projects look absolutely beautiful on this shelf. You could use these on a regular tiered tray, or if you have something unusual that you like to decorate with smaller DIYs, these projects would be perfect for that as well. So let me know what you guys use for your quote-unquote tiered trays. So that wraps up today's projects. I hope you enjoyed each of these. Let me know in the comments which is your favorite, and don't forget to check out that playlist link as well, and also the links to Emily's and Amy's channels. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I really appreciate it. Please give this video a thumbs up. That really helps my channel to grow. I hope you have a blessed day, and I will see you guys in the next one.